With different AI capabilities across platforms and constant innovation in the AI space, it can be really difficult to know where to start. Specifically in Sigma, we have constant improvements and updates, and we now have access to an abundance of AI tools. Today, we're going to focus specifically on Sigma agents. By the end of this video, we will have successfully navigated the agent interface, configured a Sigma agent with the help of the Agent Builder Assistant, and tested how our agent takes governed actions to update an input table. On a related note, Sigma Public is now live. Sigma Public is a place where users can build in Sigma and share with others publicly, all without needing a license. Feel free to create your free Sigma Public account and follow along. To start, we're going to create a new workbook. As an example, we're going to create a task tracking agent today. To do this, we need somewhere to track our tasks. We'll start with an empty input table. We'll leave it connected to the Sigma sample database and press create. Let's rename this input table to task tracking input table. We're going to use 4 columns: a task name column, a project name column, an assignee column, and a status column. As an example of what this data might look like, let's type directly into the table. We'll have gather data for the marketing app. The project name will be marketing app. The assignee will be John Smith, and the status is new. We're going to go ahead and delete these extra rows. We could manage tasks by typing directly into the input table, but this is cumbersome and can lead to error. It also might be easier for our end user to use natural language with an agent to fill this table out for them. Let's go ahead and create that agent. To bring in the agent, we'll press UI in the element bar and bring in a chat box. We'll press select agent, and since we haven't created an agent yet, our only option is to create a new agent. Now let's orient ourselves to this configuration window. On the left, we have the Agent Builder Assistant. We can use this to help us build instructions. And this is a great place to start if we're not familiar with how to format instructions or how detailed they need to be for our agent to function appropriately. On the right, at the top, we have the name of our agent, and below this, we have our connections. What's really cool about Sigma agents is you can provide access to specific resources that the agent can only access those resources. We have data sources, and we have additional tools like actions, warehouse tools, and MCP tools. And lastly, at the bottom, we have our instructions. These are the instructions that the agent will follow to interact with the user. I always like to start with adding data sources and other connections, and then I prompt the Agent Builder Assistant to help me build the instructions. Let's start by adding the plus sign next to data sources and adding our task tracking input table. Now we're going to add an action. Let's rename this action Add a Task. Here we're going to allow the agent to add a new task to our table. The action is to insert a row into the task tracking input table, and we want the agent to input its input. So we're going to select agent input from each of these dropdowns. The only one that we're not going to do this for is the status, because every time we add a task, the status is automatically going to be new. In the upper right corner, we see no approval required. This means that the agent can insert rows without asking the user for approval. Let's change this to requires approval so that the agent can't take action until the user says it's okay. We're going to add one more action, and we're going to name this Update the Status. And this way we can use the agent to update the status of existing tasks. We'll select Update Row, and we want to update the status with agent input. And again, we want to require user approval. Awesome. Now we're ready to create instructions. Let's use the Agent Builder Assistant and say, create a task tracking agent that takes user inputs on upcoming and existing tasks and updates the table accordingly using the provided actions. The Agent Builder Assistant is going to take these vague directions and provide us with what we can consider a first draft of our agent instructions. We see that the name is updated to Task Tracking Agent. And then we see in the instructions that we have the focus of the agent, how we want the agent to respond, and when to use each of the provided actions, the tools that the agent can use, and what boundaries. Boundaries is a good place where you might want to add additional information if you notice that the agent isn't responding as expected. For example, we could limit the agent to only ask one follow-up question to give the user a swifter experience. One more thing I want to call out, but that we're not going to dive into very deeply, is that you can use dynamic values in your agent instructions. For example, under how to respond, I can add always address the user as and add the dynamic value current user first name. Let's go ahead and test it out. We'll press save. And we see that the agent addresses me as Cassandra. I'm going to say add a task for the marketing app project that we need to build a data model in Sigma. The agent asks follow-up questions because it doesn't have all the information that it needs. We're going to assign this to me. Here's where we're going to see the really important step that we added. The chat is asking for permission to insert this task into the table. So it gives us an overview of what the insert row action is going to look like. It's adding the build a data model task to the marketing app project assigned to me with the status new. I'm going to go ahead and press approve. And we see that our row was inserted into our input table. If you've been following along and building alongside me, go ahead and continue to test the agent, add boundaries, and test the limits of what it's capable of. Now you have everything you need in your toolkit to be able to build a basic Sigma agent and continue to explore agents.